Oh, you want to know what the Ministry of Civil Affairs does? Who knows, am I right? Who knows what they do? Not me.
This video was actually supposed to come out a little earlier, but I was absolutely mind-controlled by Scaramouche and the Iridori Festival that I forgot about the chasm. So here we are. Genshin's 2.7 drip marketing has come, and let's all welcome the 5-star of 2.7, Yelan, a lady who claims to be from the Ministry of Civil Affairs. Today, I want to investigate and theorize Yelan's mysterious origins and her role in the future story of Genshin Impact. As a disclaimer, all the information here would be personal speculation save for the last part where I address some comments that I got in my Twitch streams. I also won't be going over anything data mined or leaked. All the information that I will present as supporting evidence is found in the game. Maybe. Also, none of these information are indicative of the final product. So without further ado, let's begin. The information about Yelan is actually few and far in between. She's a mysterious character that hardly stays for anything outside of business. Known as a phantom, she tends to operate in her own cryptic ways out of public scrutiny. Her name Yelan in English means the night orchid, and her constellation Umbrabilis Orchis means shadowy orchid. According to her character introduction, we get the following lines of dialogue. Yelan's identity has always been a mystery. Like a phantom, she often appears in various guises at the center of events and disappears before the storm stops. The people who are caught up in trouble look forward to meeting her. For some reason, most of them think she will help them, and if not, they want her to be their ally. But the problem is, their opponents harbor the same idea. Every one of these people has met a Yelan who goes by a different name and identity, and each of them thinks they can reach a partnership with her. However, everyone has been kept in the dark. Who does she want to help? When will she tell the truth? Once she acts and intervenes, nothing can be trusted. When she reveals her true identity and speaks the truth, those who are eager for answers may not have the chance to hear it. If I had to relate her with already existing tropes and presentations in the game, I would relate her to someone like Kaya, Diluc, and Rosaria, someone that operates through multiple facets and personas, not necessarily disguises, but rather presentations of themselves in order to conceal a higher agenda. While she claims to be from the Ministry of Civil Affairs, the evidence of that is very minimal. She seems to be an independent entity just managing herself, all while somewhat assisting the ministry. Actually, the Ministry of Civil Affairs in and of themselves is an interesting topic. We hear about this mysterious entity, but we don't get any solid information about their inner workings. The Ministry of Civil Affairs works with the Liyue Qixing to protect Liyue and gather intel. The Ministry of Civil Affairs oversees entrance and exit in Liyue, as well as most forms of travel. They also tend to festivals like the Lantern Rite and other internal affairs that keep Liyue maintained. But the actual information that we know about them as a player is lacking. I would even say that we know more about the Fatui than we do about the Ministry of Civil Affairs. That's how strangely anonymous their organization is to us, at least until now. Yelan is the perfect character to show the audience who the Ministry really is as another independent faction, the actual people doing the dirty work behind the scenes to maintain Liyue, all while under Ningguang's watchful authority. But if we investigate existing voice lines, we can discern her assumed role in the ministry. First is her general presence in the ministry and her close connections with Ningguang. We also know that she gathers intel through mysterious ways.
She's a very interesting character. I can say with the utmost confidence that she is someone I trust unreservedly. She handles herself impeccably, which means she stays beyond reproach. Since you both have high intelligence in common, hopefully you will get along very well.
Miss Yelan's ancestors used to serve the Qixing. My grandfather and her family have had academic collaborations in the past. All in all, she's reliable, efficient, and provides important intel to the Ministry of Civil Affairs. I can't say for sure how Miss Yelan actually gets her intel, however.
Even though Miss Yelan is absent from work for the majority of the year, I'm sure Lady Ningguang must have her reasons for making exceptions for her. Of course, it wouldn't be my place to ask, so I don't know the details of their arrangement. I remember seeing her one day on my way back to Yuehai Pavilion. She was having breakfast with a group of people. They were all talking and laughing, eating, drinking tea. I must admit, I found myself feeling a little envious in that moment.
Have you heard the expression, same person, different face? Miss Yelan gives me precisely this feeling. When she came to visit my family, my father and brother treated her with respect, and she was pleasant and polite in return. She seemed like a kind and mature young lady to me, but when I saw her elsewhere, she gave a completely different impression.
Yelan is an employee of the Ministry of Civil Affairs. She once helped me crack a tough accounting fraud case. I treated her to dinner afterward. The only thing is, I feel like she's able to read my mind at any given moment when talking to her. Yes, in the future, I need to make absolutely sure I don't get on the wrong side of her.
The way she gathers intel is one of the most interesting parts here. Again, if I were to compare her with another character, she reminds me of Diluc, someone who mingles with all sorts of people to gather networking, and then uses that to her advantage. What kind of people she meddles with is unknown. Additionally, they did say something about personas and disguises, meaning that maybe this version of Yelan is someone else entirely. Maybe she looks like someone else when you go to other nations. Who knows?
I met her once, back when I'd just become an exorcist. I'd taken a commission to perform an exorcism in someone's home, and was just leaving at the end when I ran into her. She wrote my name down in a booklet. I guess she just wanted to confirm I wasn't doing anything suspicious. Anyway, it was just that one time. I never saw her again after that. Now that I think about it, it's probably because the sight of me meditating motionless must be pretty boring to watch. Not exactly suspicious.
Chongyin being scouted for suspicion aligns perfectly well with how the Ministry of Civil Affairs operate. According to the lore, they keep tabs of important people and have a watch list on those that could potentially pose a threat to Liyue. Or maybe not really a threat, just people that they need to keep an eye on. Make sure that they don't do anything suspicious and questionable.
You probably thought that there was some sort of nefarious business going on behind all the secrecy today. The truth is, that was exactly what I wanted the Ministry of Civil Affairs to believe. What you might not know is that I, as the leader of the Crux Fleet, and you, the great hero of Liyue Harbor, have both been on the Ministry of Civil Affairs watch list for a long time. In other words, whenever you or I crop up in Liyue Harbor, it almost always draws their attention. Not that there's any animosity behind it, mind you. In their words, it's a security precaution to prevent people like us from causing unnecessary trouble. Oh, I have no qualms about that. They're just doing their job, keeping the land safe. But how does that saying go again? Ah, yes. Sometimes the closer you are to something, the less you can see. After all, the Ministry of Civil Affairs sent the Millilith to us. In any case, there's another higher-level watch list at the Ministry of Civil Affairs above the one we're on. It's top secret. Even I don't know whose names are on it. But I do know that the individuals and organizations on that list are the ones the Qixing are really wary of.
That last quote most likely means people like the Harbingers. For example, while Beidou and the Traveler are powerful physically, they don't really pose any political and economic threat to Liyue. Someone I can see high up on that list is Pantalone, a Harbinger that owns the Northland Bank, the most powerful bank in the Land of Commerce. Or maybe they even have the Abyss sibling on that list, who knows? Then we have this situation with the Chasm.
I've heard that she once investigated the Chasm, following the trail of the Millilith. If she can investigate mysteries like that on her own, she must be someone of rare skill.
We do see Yelan in the Chasm during her duties, and I think her main mission was to investigate the Skyfrost Nail and the ancient civilization. This would correlate with the Ministry finding something in the Chasm before locking the space up. The Ministry of Civil Affairs just said that they dug something up at the Chasm, and then sealed the place without another word. Several hundred people relied on the forge for their livelihood. What will those people do now that there's no work to be had? Alas, I am but a nobody, and no one will listen to me. But I for one don't believe for a second that they dug anything big up. I would go myself to investigate, but I dare not leave my daughter here or bring her along. If you have time, Traveler, could you go to the Chasm and help me investigate? If there really is nothing serious happening, then I can appeal to the Ministry of Civil Affairs that work be resumed. We see in the cutscene against the ruined serpent she was there following the traveler, so I don't doubt her mission has something to do with the ancient civilization. On a side note, it doesn't seem like she's hostile to the traveler at the moment, and her lord does support that. Her role in the story is currently a mystery, but she would be a good character to explain how the Ministry of Civil Affairs operate. Following this, I want to answer something that my comments were asking me. I don't know where this came from personally, please put this in the comments. I wasn't able to find the actual source and they never really told me, but some people were asking if I think she's a Fatui Harbinger, and that's actually why I wanted to make this video. In my opinion, narratively, it wouldn't be a good idea to make her a Harbinger. Plus, if she were a Harbinger, she'd have to be Columbina, the last alleged Harbinger based on the constellation of the Crying Dove. That's because the other 10 Harbingers are confirmed to either be a man or have a design with the exception of Sandrone and Capitano. Capitano being a much more, well, interesting character. I'll go on that in another video. Columbina in the Commedia dell'arte is a gossiper and is known for her intelligence. Actually, being the only intelligent character in the Commedia, it would make sense inspirationally to make Yelan into a Harbinger that infiltrated the Ministry of Civil Affairs. Again, she also does have a lot of disguises, meaning that maybe Columbina is her actual persona while Yelan is just how she operates. I can definitely see that as an inspiration for how Yelan could be a Harbinger. But what I want to ask is, what would the point even be? Prior to the events of the Liyue Archon quest, Liyue and Snezhnaya have a public agreement of operation. The Fatui were allowed to control a lot of facilities in Liyue because of business and public political affairs. This is why there were people in the chasm in the first place. Someone was already working on the expedition, a man with the title of the captain. So we can't really say that Yelan's purpose was to infiltrate the ministry in order to get to the chasm. The point is that the Harbingers are so politically powerful in Liyue that they established a bank and have several Harbingers visiting as important guests. It wouldn't make sense for an infiltration amongst the Ministry of Civil Affairs if a Harbinger could get the same results without the need of going incognito. A political agreement between them would be rendered useless if the Fatui can't abuse their powers to threaten the Ministry of Civil Affairs. Not to mention, the double agent motif would be impossible to pull off narratively. Characters publicly know Yelan, and it would be a disservice to the intelligence of Ningguang not to look into Yelan before trusting her unreservedly. I do agree that Yelan is mysterious, and given she's not yet released, she could be anything from a Conrian descendant to a ruined guard to Columbina, but my reservations still stand on the whole she's a Harbinger thing. We'll just need to wait for the drop of everything before making any final guesses. I could just be completely wrong, which I'll be fine with. Free Harbinger, baby! But it'll be pretty sad for Tartaglia if there's a second Hydra user in the Fatui. Yelan is a Hydra user that hails from Liyue, allegedly. I've seen a lot of criticisms about her design not looking Liyuan enough, whatever that means. Some are saying that it's Snezhnayan because of the fur coat or Mondstatter because of the composition, though I have to disagree. Her design, in my opinion, actually resembles a more modernized Liyuan style than the ones we're used to. Instead of the traditional garments and patterns we see with characters like Xiao, Ganyu, Keqing, and Ningguang, I actually think that Yelan's design borrows a lot of elements from characters like Zhongli, Hu Tao, Chongyun, and Beidou. A much less traditional altercation, but still holds elements unique to Liyue's Chinese inspirations. Liyuan designs tend to overlap with each other because of their cultural inspirations. I can't give you any accurate Chinese counterparts, so I'll be breaking her design down by comparing it with other Liyuan characters to see if she fits with them consistently. The biggest giveaway for me is the jacket. The billowing shape of the sleeves and the intricate patterns along the edge of the sleeves and the hem of the opening looks distinctively Liyuan. The structure of it resembles something like Hu Tao's sleeves, plus Chongyun's top mixed with Ningguang's fur and lace accents. Next is her halter top. It reminds me a lot of Beidou's top mixed with Shenhe's long-fitted pants. Yelan also has that signature split flap like you see with Hu Tao, Beidou, and Ningguang's designs. Her overall design gives me the vibe of a Liyuan treasure hoarder, perhaps just because of the juvenile look she's going for. She also has the dice on her neck, which most likely has a focus in her character's stories. Maybe that theme of gambling or relying on Lady Luck is part of her aesthetic. Or maybe the dice is a representation of all of the many faces that she has, all the disguises and personas that she claims to be. Just to add, the dice might also be a reference to Bo Bing, which is a Chinese dice game traditionally played as part of the celebration of the Mid-Autumn Festival. It is traditionally played with 6 dice in a china bowl. This is actually one of my favorite games to play, and it is a gambling game. I just don't understand what's keeping her coat on her, by the way. Maybe it's a hanger on the back because we see both of her arms in the Rixona ad posts. In conclusion, Yelan is a very promising character lore-wise. I think she'll operate the same way as Kaya and Ayato, where they have a surface persona but a much more interconnected band of intel for their dirty work. But yes, that's it for me today. What are your thoughts on Yelan? Do you think she's neat? Do you think she's a possible important character like a Fatui or a member of the Abyss? Anyway, my name is Aster and thank you for chilling with me.